This is my 2022 Jeep Wrangler. And these annoying poles belong to my Tembo Tusk Scotto. I can't find a good place to hold them, and it's driving me nuts. So I went to the internet and looked for a solution. Nothing. So I made it. Here it is in all of its glory, a simple holster designed for this Jeep, just for these poles, just for me. My name's AJ, and this is what I've been up to. I think that 3D printing for overland and off-road vehicles is a game changer, and I think it's going to be really fun to see what people do with this technology, especially related to our hobby. So in this video, I want to make the case for using 3D printing to improve your rig, to really get your rig dialed in. First, I'm going to show you my process, the printer I'm using, the filaments I use, the programs I use, and just kind of my overall process. And then I'm going to show you a couple of examples of things that I built for my Jeep. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm using. I bought the X1C printer from Bambu Labs. I got this on Facebook used for a little bit of a deal. I got a lot of filament with it, and I got the printer for some money off. But you do not need the X1C to do what I'm talking about here. In fact, the new base model from Bambu Labs I think is about $299, and that thing will do a lot of what I'm talking about here. Now, as far as the plastic or filament that I'm using to make these parts, I am using what's called PLA, and it's very strong. However, it has poor UV resistance. So it's not something that you'll find or you'll use a lot on the outside of your rig, but definitely on the inside for storage things is kind of where I've gone with it. There are filaments that you can use on the outside, and I plan to do that someday. All right, so to build anything with a 3D printer, you're going to need some kind of CAD software or 3D Design Studio. I'm using what's called Shaper 3D, which is an iPad program where you can use the Apple Pencil, and it makes it really, really easy to design some of these products. It's pretty intuitive. So first I'll measure out the dimensions of where I want the part to go. I just picked up a pair of calipers from Lowe's. These will definitely be a must-have if you want to do this kind of thing. I'm going to measure out all the surfaces I'll be dealing with, all of the holes I'll be dealing with. First I'll kind of draw it out on paper. This is a very rough sketch. However, it'll kind of tell me where I'm going when I get into my iPad and start with the Shaper 3D program. I'm no engineer, so this whole process is a lot of trial and error for me. I kind of build something first, iterate on it, print it, try to use it, see what doesn't work, go back, try again. Draw, print, test, draw, print, test. Next, let's talk about the exciting part. What are some applications that I've used this 3D printer for in my overland rig? Okay, so the one thing, or the idea that kind of got me into this in general, was I have those poles for my Scotto, which is the Tembo Tusk Scotto. So those poles kind of drive me nuts. There's really no good place to put them. You can get a bag for them, or I think it came with a bag. I just don't know where I put it. But I don't know, they clank around. You have to lay them down somewhere. It's not ideal. So I wanted to build a clip system that gives these things a very specific place to go inside the Jeep where they won't move around, and which kind of goes into the theme of my Jeep in general. I really want this thing to be really dialed in, very organized, so that when I do go on trips, which I haven't been on one in a while, it can make it really easy to get out there, and I can stay organized. Okay, so in order to make this, I had to measure out the poles first, and I wanted it to fit with my American Adventure Lab drawer system. So I had to measure out the holes in the drawer system, which are these wishbone style holes. And when I was making this was my first really iterative project. I had to go back and forth with how much material I was using to find where the clips were just strong enough not to break, but loose enough to let the poles slide into place and click in. I had to find a balance that worked, and I ended up also using a little bit of electrical tape around the poles to really make sure that they stay secure. Okay, so far these Scotto poles work like a champ. They hold it nice and tightly in place. They don't rattle or move around really at all. Okay, the next thing was for my Sitio crates. Sitio crates I found online. They come in a multitude of different colors, and they're very modular. You can change them around and really customize the storage within them. But the only downside to them is I couldn't find a good way to keep them in the back of the Jeep without them, rattling and moving around too much. I tried these little ring clips I had and a bungee cord pulled over the top of it, and I just did not like, one, how that looked. Two, I couldn't open the top of the crate. So again, I measured out the dog bone style holes in the American Adventure Lab rack system, and I came up with these clips and are able to secure down all these crates in the back of the Jeep without them moving around really at all. I think these clips have made these crates, you know, possible to use in my setup. They make it super easy to get access into the crates at any time, and I don't have any rattle or any noise coming from them, and I really like how it turned out. Now, the Jeep glove box kind of sucks. It's way too deep, it's a little narrow, there's really no good place to put anything within it. And I think that this is a testament to the true power of 3D printing. I just hopped online and was able to find an already created 3D print file that I just downloaded and printed with my printer. There are tons of websites out there hosting 3D print files for just about everything under the sun, including things for the JL Wrangler. The glove box organizer is real simple, very simple print, but it helps me keep things just a little bit more organized. It gives me more of a place to lay things down and not have it be just a complete jumbled mess inside of the Jeep. All right, so the next one in here is probably one of my more simple projects, but it was a cable clip that I put on the 67 Designs arm mount. Cable management's pretty important to me, and I really just wanted these cables not to be laying around everywhere, so I thought it'd be cool to have these clips run up the 67 Designs arm and then plug into my phone from there. All it took was measuring out the diameter of the arm itself, measuring out the diameter of the cord, and then kind of putting those two circles together, and it made a really quick and easy clip that works perfect. So anyway, that's what I'm using my 3D printer for with my Jeep right now. I've got some other ideas that I just, maybe a little bit more complicated, things I'd like to put in place. I'd like to make a fridge cleat system so that I can put my fridge in and pull it out whenever I need to, without having to screw it into place or tie it down. I'd love to make some light covers for my KC light bar. Really, the sky is the limit. You can do just about anything with one of these printers in the back of your Jeep.